This 4-year-old homeless girl finds a millionaire tied to a gate with a sign, "Only learns through beating." But she tries to help him, and something happens. Comment on what you think will happen. Your opinion is very important, and subscribe to my channel to support my work. Your help is very important. The scorching midday sun beat down on the dusty streets of Harmony Creek, a small town in rural West Virginia where time seemed to have stopped decades ago. 4-year-old Isabel dragged her bare feet across the hot asphalt, her big, dark eyes searching every corner for something to ease the hunger that had been gnawing at her stomach for 2 days. Her tangled, dirty brown hair stuck to her sweaty face, while her little outfit, a faded pink dress that had once been white, hung loosely on her thin little body. The little girl had learned to survive on the streets of Harmony Creek for exactly 2 years, ever since her mother, Delilah, disappeared without a trace. First, she stayed with Mrs. Gable, the elderly neighbor who promised to take care of her for a few days until Delilah returned. But the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, until the old woman, tired of the responsibility and without the resources to support a child, simply locked the house and left to live with a daughter in the state capital, leaving Isabel alone in the world. That sweltering afternoon, when the heat made the air ripple above the asphalt, Isabel rounded the corner of Maple Street and came across a scene she never imagined she would witness. Standing in front of the rusty iron gates of an abandoned mansion, she saw a man tied to the gate, unconscious and injured. A cardboard sign was hanging on his chest with the words, "Only learns through beating," written in bold, red letters. The man was tall, probably in his 50s, and even injured and humiliated. It was possible to see that his clothes had been expensive. His white dress shirt was torn and stained with blood, his linen pants wrinkled and dirty. His face, swollen and bruised, still preserved traces of a mature handsomeness, with neatly trimmed graying hair and hands that, despite the injuries, showed that they had never known hard labor. Isabel approached cautiously, her childlike curiosity overcoming her fear. The man was breathing with difficulty, and she could see that he had been brutally beaten. His wrists were injured by the ropes that held him to the gate, and a trickle of blood ran from the corner of his mouth. The little girl looked around, checking that no one was nearby, and then gently touched the man's arm. "Mister?" she whispered, her voice small and hesitant. "Mister, are you okay?" The man moved his head slightly and groaned softly. Isabel felt her heart race. He was alive. Without thinking twice, she ran to a nearby puddle, wet the hem of her dress, and returned to gently wipe the stranger's bruised face. "Don't worry, mister," she murmured, repeating the words her mother used to say when she got hurt. "It's going to be okay. Isabel will take care of you." The man opened his eyes slowly, still dazed. When his gaze met the dirty but angelic little face of the girl, he blinked several times, as if he did not believe what he saw. Isabel smiled shyly, revealing a few missing teeth. "Hi, mister. I'm Isabel. You're hurt." The man tried to speak, but his throat was dry and hoarse. Isabel noticed his difficulty and, remembering the piece of stale bread she had gotten earlier at Joe's bakery, she took it out of her dress pocket. The bread was hard and a little moldy, but it was all she had. "Here, mister. It's not very good, but it'll help the hunger," she said, offering the bread as if it were the greatest treasure in the world. The man looked at that emaciated child, offering him what was probably her only meal of the day, and felt something stir deeply in his chest. Tears began to run down his injured face, mixing with blood and dirt. "Thank you," he managed to murmur, his voice choked. "Thank you, little one." Isabel smiled more widely, happy to have been able to help. She didn't know that the man in front of her was Valentine Sterling, one of the richest businessmen in the region, owner of a construction company that employed half the town. She also didn't know that he had been put there by his own brother, Hector, in an act of revenge that had been planned for years. What she did know was that she had found someone who, like her, was suffering and needed help, and that was enough for her generous heart to open completely. "I'm going to get you out of here," she said with the determination that only a child can have. "I'll go get help." But as she turned to leave, Valentine managed to call her back with a thread of voice. "Wait, don't go, please." Isabel stopped and returned to him. There was something in the man's tone that made her feel that he was more scared than she was, and at that moment, without knowing why, she decided that she would not abandon him, just like everyone had abandoned her. Isabel sat down on the dusty ground next to Valentine, her little legs crossed as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The man was still tied to the gate, but the girl's presence brought a strange relief to his desperate situation. She began to tell him about her life with the brutal simplicity that only children possess. "My mom's name is Delilah," she said, playing with a pebble she found on the ground. "She's very pretty and sings beautiful songs. But she had to leave a long time ago and said she would be back soon, but she hasn't come back yet." Valentine watched that child with a mixture of fascination and pain. Even in his vulnerable condition, he felt compelled to listen to every word. "And where do you live now?" he asked, his voice still weak. "Oh, I live in several places," Isabel replied naturally. "Sometimes in the park, sometimes behind the bakery when it rains. I built a cardboard house under the bridge, but the wind took it last week." The naturalness with which she described her life on the streets broke Valentine's heart. He tried to move, but the ropes were too tight and his wrists were bleeding. Isabel noticed his discomfort and stood up. "Wait a minute, mister, I'll untie you." With her little fingers, she began to work on the knots of the ropes. It was a difficult job for a child, but she persisted with admirable determination. Meanwhile, she told him more about her survival routine. "Mrs. Gable, who took care of me when Mom left, said I was too much work. She went to live with her daughter far away from here and forgot about me. But that's okay. I'm big now, and I can take care of myself." Valentine closed his eyes, feeling a growing anger, not at the girl, but at all the adults who had failed her. "How old are you, Isabel?" "4," she replied, focused on the knots. "But I'm almost 5. Mom said that when I turn 5, she'll throw me a party with cake and everything." Finally, after much effort, Isabel managed to loosen one of the ropes. Valentine felt immediate relief in his circulation. The girl continued working on the second knot, her little hands already sore from the effort. "Why did they do this to you?" she asked, without stopping working. Valentine hesitated. How to explain to a 4-year-old child that her own brother had orchestrated that humiliation? How to tell her that Hector had discovered that he had sabotaged his business for years, causing his financial ruin? "Sometimes adults do bad things to each other," he said finally, "and sometimes people take revenge. Like when John from up the street pulled my hair and I threw a rock at him," Isabel asked, making Valentine smile for the first time. "More or less like that," he replied. When she finally managed to loosen the second rope, Valentine collapsed on the ground, his legs shaking. Isabel immediately approached, offering her small shoulder as support. "Easy, mister. Let's go slowly." They walked slowly along the deserted street. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red. Isabel guided Valentine to a vacant lot where she had improvised her latest shelter, a structure made of large cardboard boxes covered with pieces of tarpaulin she had found. "Welcome to my house," she said proudly, as if she were presenting a palace. The shelter was surprisingly organized for having been built by a child. There was a corner with some rags that served as a bed, a can where she kept water, and some objects she had collected. Bottle caps, pieces of string, a plastic doll without an arm. "Sit here," she said, indicating a piece of wood that served as a chair. "I'm going to bandage you up." Isabel took a relatively clean cloth and dipped it in the water from the can. With maternal care that was impressive for her age, she cleaned Valentine's wounds, blowing lightly to ease the pain. My mum did that when I got hurt, she explained. She said Mum's breath had magic power. Valentine watched that child taking care of him with a devotion that he had not received from anyone in a long time. He was used to solicitous employees, self-serving partners, and women attracted to his wealth. But that girl was helping him simply because it was the right thing to do. "Isabel," he said softly, "you don't know me. How do you know you can trust me?" She stopped cleaning his wounds and looked at him with her big, serious eyes. "Because you were hurting like me. And Mum always said that whoever hurts like us understands us better." The simplicity of the answer left him speechless. At that moment, Valentine realized that he was facing a wisdom that his wealth and education had never provided him. "How can you be so strong?" he asked. "I don't know," she shrugged. "I guess it's because I need to be. If I'm not strong, who's going to take care of me when Mom comes back?" When it got completely dark, Isabel offered half of her blanket, a piece of rough cloth, to Valentine. They lay side by side on the hard ground, looking through an opening in the tarpaulin at the stars. "Mister," she whispered in the dark, "what's your name?" Valentine hesitated. Revealing his identity could complicate everything. "Valentine," he said finally. "Valentine is a pretty name," she murmured, already sleepy. "Tomorrow I'll show you where there's a tap with good water and where the baker sometimes gives away old bread." While the girl fell asleep beside him, Valentine remained awake, looking at the starry sky. 12 hours ago, he was in his luxurious office, worried about contracts and investments. Now he was lying on the hard ground of a vacant lot, protected by an abandoned child who had become his savior. And most disturbing of all, for the first time in years, he felt truly human. Valentine woke up with the rising sun shining through the cracks in the tarpaulin. His body ached from sleeping on the hard ground, but there was something strangely comforting about waking up next to Isabel, who was sleeping soundly with a serene smile on her face. He watched the girl for a few minutes, impressed with her ability to find peace even in such adverse conditions. "Good morning, Valentine," she said cheerfully when she opened her eyes, as if waking up in a cardboard shack was the most normal thing in the world. "I'm going to get water for us to wash." She ran off, leaving Valentine alone with his thoughts. The reality of his situation began to set in. Hector had planned everything meticulously. He certainly expected him to be exposed at the gate until someone found him, and the humiliation spread through the town. But he wasn't counting on Isabel. The girl returned with a plastic bottle full of water. "Here," she said, "but we have to save it. I only got this because I helped the lady at the diner carry some boxes." Valentine washed as best he could, trying to remove the dried blood and dirt. His clothes were in tatters, but at least he was free. Isabel watched him curiously. "Valentine, do you have a family?" she asked while tidying up her little shelter. "I have a brother," he replied hesitantly, "but we don't get along." "Why? Brothers are supposed to take care of each other. I always wanted to have a brother." Valentine sighed. "Sometimes adults do bad things and hurt the people they love. I hurt my brother and now he's hurting me back." "Can't you apologize?" she asked with the simple logic of childhood. "It's not that easy, little one." Isabel took his injured hand and looked into his eyes. "My mum said that apologizing is the first step to fixing things, even when it hurts a lot." During the morning, Isabel took Valentine to see her survival routine. First, they went to Joe's bakery, where she got some stale bread in exchange for helping clean the tables. Then they visited the farmer's market, where she picked up fruits and vegetables that fell from the stalls. "You have to be smart," she explained, showing him how to choose the best fruits from the ground. "These are just bruised, but they're still good." Valentine watched fascinated how that 4-year-old child had developed survival strategies that many adults would not be able to. She knew every merchant, knew the best times to find food, and had created a network of small favors that guaranteed her the basics to live. "Isabel," he said as they shared a mashed banana, "have you ever thought about asking for help? Going to a shelter, for example?" The little girl's face darkened. "I've tried, but they ask a lot of questions about Mom, and I don't know how to answer. Then they say they're going to take me far away. And what if Mom comes back and doesn't find me?" "I understand," Valentine murmured, realizing the complexity of the situation. "You never give up waiting for her, do you?" "Never," she replied firmly. "Mom promised me she would come back, and Mom never breaks promises." During the afternoon, they took shelter from the rain under an abandoned awning. Isabel began to tell stories about her mother, and Valentine realized that the girl kept very vivid memories despite her young age. "Mom worked a lot," she said. "Sometimes she came home crying and said she was having problems. I didn't understand what problems were, but I saw that she was sad." "What kind of work did your mother do?" Valentine asked. "She cleaned big houses, but sometimes bad people would come to our place and yell at her. Mom would get scared and cry in the bathroom." Valentine felt a knot in his stomach. He was beginning to suspect that Delilah had gotten involved with loan sharks or dangerous people. "Do you remember these men? They were men in nice suits, just like yours, but with mean faces. They talked about money, and Mom said she didn't have any." "And after that, your mom left?" Isabel shook her head, her eyes filling with tears. "She said she was going to take care of the problems and would be right back. But it's been a long time." Valentine hugged the girl, feeling a determination grow in his chest. "Isabel, what if I helped you find your mom?" Her eyes lit up. "Would you do that?" "I would," he replied, surprised by his own certainty. "But first I need to take care of some of my own problems." That night, while Isabel slept, Valentine stayed up planning. He needed to recover his identity, his resources, and find out how far Hector's revenge would go. But something had changed in him. The sight of an abandoned child struggling to survive had awakened something that had been dormant for a long time. He looked at Isabel, who was murmuring in her sleep, calling for her mother. A silent promise formed in his mind. He wouldn't abandon that girl, no matter what it cost. The next day, Valentine made a risky decision. "Isabel, I need to go to town to take care of some things. Can you stay here and wait for me?" "Will you come back?" she asked, the fear clear in her voice. "I'll come back," he promised. "And when I get back, we'll start looking for your mom." Isabel smiled, but there was worry in her eyes. "You really promise?" "I promise," said Valentine, and for the first time in years he knew he would keep his word. As he walked toward downtown Harmony Creek, Valentine didn't know that Hector was watching everything from afar, confused by his brother's behavior. The revenge plan had taken a totally unexpected turn, and now he was facing a situation he hadn't foreseen. His brother was transforming through his interactions with an abandoned child, and that transformation was just beginning. Valentine arrived in downtown Harmony Creek in the late afternoon, his torn and dirty clothes drawing the attention of everyone he passed. People who had greeted him respectfully for decades now looked at him with strangeness and even contempt. Some whispered to each other, clearly recognizing the powerful businessman in his degraded condition. His first stop was at the bank, where he hoped to gain access to his resources. But when he arrived, he discovered that his accounts had been temporarily blocked. The manager, Mr. Moreira, a man who had always treated him with reverence, now could barely look him in the eye. "Mr. Sterling," he said nervously, "we received a court order to freeze your assets until certain irregularities are clarified." "What irregularities?" Valentine asked, although he already suspected the answer. "It seems there is evidence of fraud in some of your businesses. Your brother Hector presented documents to the court." Valentine felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. Hector hadn't just planned his public humiliation, he had orchestrated his complete ruin. The blocking of the accounts meant he had no access to money, credit cards, or any of his resources. "Can I at least withdraw a small amount for basic necessities?" he asked. The manager shook his head, embarrassed. "I'm very sorry, sir. My hands are tied." Valentine left the bank in shock. For the first time in his adult life, he was completely without financial resources. And worse, he had a 4-year-old child depending on him. He thought of Isabel, probably waiting anxiously for his return, trusting that he would keep his promise. He decided to go to his office at the construction company, but when he arrived, he found another shock. Hector was sitting in the chair that had always been his, talking to the employees as if he were the owner of the company. When he saw Valentine enter, a bitter smile formed on his lips. "Look who's here," Hector said to the employees present. "My dear brother, the great businessman Valentine Sterling." The employees exchanged embarrassed glances. Many looked down, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. Valentine ignored the provocations and went directly to Hector. "We need to talk. In private." "Oh, now you want to talk?" Hector replied sarcastically. "Where was this willingness to talk when you sabotaged my company, when you destroyed my family?" The employees began to disperse, realizing they were about to witness a family argument. When they were alone, Valentine confronted his brother. "Hector, I know I'm to blame for what happened to you, but that doesn't justify what you're doing." "Doesn't justify it?" Hector stood up abruptly. "You systematically destroyed me for years, stole my clients, sabotaged my contracts, spread lies about my company. I lost everything, Valentine. My company, my house, my wife. Even my daughter distanced herself from me." The pain in Hector's voice was palpable. Valentine realized that he had underestimated the suffering he had caused his brother. I was jealous, Hector. You were always the family favorite, the most talented." "Jealous?" Hector laughed bitterly. "You destroyed my life out of jealousy? I know there's no excuse for what I did, but now there's an innocent child involved in this. She needs help." Hector frowned. "What child?" Valentine told him about Isabel, about how she had found him and helped him, about the story of her missing mother. Hector listened in silence, his expression gradually changing from anger to confusion. "You're lying," Hector said finally. "You're making up this story to manipulate me." "Why would I lie about something like that?" Valentine asked. "You can go there and meet her. See with your own eyes." Hector watched him for a long moment. There was something different about Valentine, something he couldn't identify. The arrogant and manipulative brother he knew seemed to have given way to someone more human. "Even if this child exists," Hector said slowly, "it doesn't change what you did to me." "No, it doesn't change it," Valentine agreed. "But you have a choice about what to do from now on. You can continue with your revenge and let an innocent child suffer the consequences, or you can help me help her." Hector turned away, running his hands through his hair. "You don't understand, Valentine. It's not just anger. When I lost my company, when my wife left me, I discovered things about you I never imagined. Your investments, your business partners." "What do you mean?" "You have connections with dangerous people, Valentine. People who do terrible things to increase their profits. You may not know it, but you're complicit in a lot of bad things." A chill ran down Valentine's spine. "What kind of things?" "Exploitation of workers, fraud, coercion. Morgana Tessari, for example." "She's one of your investors, isn't she?" Valentine nodded hesitantly. Morgana was an ambitious woman who invested heavily in his projects. "She's a respected businesswoman." "Respected?" Hector laughed humorlessly. "She keeps rural workers in conditions of slavery, uses debt schemes to trap people on her farms, and you, even without knowing it, are financing it." The revelation hit Valentine like a punch. "Are you sure about this? I spent months investigating. I wanted to destroy you using your own moral flaws. But now," Hector hesitated, "now I don't know what to do anymore." Valentine sat down heavily in a chair. "My God, Hector, if this is true, how many people could be suffering because of me?" "Many," Hector replied simply. At that moment, Valentine thought of Isabel, of the story she had told about well-dressed men intimidating her mother. A terrible premonition began to form in his mind. "Hector," he said urgently, "this woman, Morgana, does she have farms where she uses forced labor?" "Several. Why?" "Isabel's mother may be on one of them. She disappeared after well-dressed men pressured her about debts." Hector looked at him for a long moment. "You're asking me to help you find a woman who may be being exploited by someone you yourself finance?" "I am," Valentine replied without hesitation. "I'm asking you to help me fix at least one of the things I did wrong." Silence stretched between the two brothers. When Hector finally spoke, his voice was softer. "That child, she really exists. She does. And she's waiting for me right now, trusting that I'm going to help her find her mother." Hector closed his eyes and sighed deeply. "You've changed, Valentine. I don't know how, but you've changed." "Isabel changed me," he admitted. "She showed me what really matters." When Hector opened his eyes, there was a decision in them. "All right, I'll help you, but not for you, for that child. And when we find her mother, we're going to resolve this situation with Morgana once and for all." It was the first step towards a reconciliation that neither of them imagined possible. When Valentine returned to the small cardboard shelter, he found Isabel sitting at the entrance, hugging her armless doll. She had spent the whole day waiting, and her eyes lit up when she saw him approaching. "Valentine, you're back!" she shouted, running to hug him. "I knew you'd come back." "I promised I would," he said, returning the hug, "and I always keep my promises." But Isabel noticed that something was different. "You're sad," she said, studying his face. "Did something bad happen?" Valentine knelt down to be at her level. "Isabel, I need to tell you some things about who I really am." The girl looked at him with curiosity but without fear. "It doesn't matter who you are," she said simply. "It matters that you're my friend." "I'm a rich businessman," Valentine began. "Or I was. I have a big company, a beautiful house, expensive cars. But I did bad things in my life, and now I'm paying for it." "What kind of bad things?" Isabel asked. "I hurt my brother. And without knowing it, I hurt other people too. People like your mother." Isabel frowned. "You hurt my mom?" "Not directly, but it's possible that I helped the people who hurt her." To his surprise, Isabel took his hands. "But you didn't know, right? When we don't know we're doing something bad, it's not our fault. Sometimes it's our responsibility to find out," Valentine replied. "But now I know, and I'm going to fix everything." "How?" "My brother is going to help me. We're going to look for your mom together." Isabel's eyes filled with tears of joy. "Really? You're going to find Mom?" "We're going to try with all our might," Valentine promised. The next day, Hector appeared at the makeshift shelter, carrying some bags. When he saw Isabel for the first time, he was visibly shocked. The girl was even smaller and more fragile than he had imagined, but her eyes shone with an impressive inner strength. "Hi," she said shyly. "Are you Valentine's brother?" "I am," replied Hector, his voice softer than usual. "I'm Hector. Valentine said you fought, but now you're going to help me find Mom." Hector looked at Valentine, who nodded. "That's right. We're going to do everything we can." Isabel ran inside the shelter and came back with a crumpled drawing. "Look, I drew my mom. She has long hair and smiles a lot." Hector took the drawing carefully. The female figure on the paper was drawn with childish strokes, but there was love in every line. "She looks very beautiful," he said. "She's the most beautiful in the world," Isabel agreed proudly. Hector opened one of the bags he had brought. "I brought some things for you. Food, clean clothes, medicine." "Medicine?" Valentine asked. "For the injuries and—" Hector hesitated, looking at Isabel. "I also brought information about Morgana's farms. 3 of them use forced labor." During lunch, which consisted of sandwiches that Hector had bought, the 2 brothers discussed strategies while Isabel played with a new toy that Hector had brought. We can't go to the farms directly, Hector said. Morgana has henchmen. If she finds out we're investigating, she could hide the evidence, Valentine completed. Or worse, she could hurt the workers. We need a more subtle approach. Isabel approached them. Can I help? She asked. How so, little one? Valentine asked. I know a lot of people in town, people who work, who clean houses, who know things. Maybe someone has seen my mom. Hector and Valentine exchanged glances. The idea had merit. Could you ask your friends if anyone knew a woman named Delilah? Hector asked. I can, Isabel replied enthusiastically. I'll ask everyone. That afternoon, Isabel took the two brothers to meet her sources of information. First, they went to Mrs. Gable, a laundress who worked at the creek. Mrs. Gable, do you know a lady named Delilah? She's my mom, Isabel asked. The old woman stopped washing clothes and looked at the girl with affection. Delilah, that name reminds me of something. There was a lady with that name who worked for some rich families here. But it's been a while since I've seen her. Do you know where she is? Isabel asked hopefully. I heard she had to leave town because of debts. Some bad men were after her. Valentine and Hector approached. Mrs. Gable, can I ask you a question? Valentine said respectfully. Do you know if this Delilah was taken anywhere specific? The laundress looked at him suspiciously. Who wants to know? We're Isabel's friends, Hector explained. We want to help her find her mother. Mrs. Gable murmured. I heard rumors that some indebted women were taken to work on a farm far from here, but I don't know if it's true. What kind of farm? Valentine insisted. They say it's a big farm with a lot of workers, that the owner doesn't let anyone leave until they pay off their debts. Isabel took Valentine's hand. Is my mom there? She asked with a trembling voice. We don't know yet, Valentine said. But we're going to find out. After visiting a few more people, the three returned to the shelter. Isabel was quiet, processing the information she had heard. Finally, she looked at Valentine and Hector. If Mom is on a bad farm, she must be scared, she said. We have to get her out of there quickly. We will, little one, Hector promised. But we need to be careful. We don't want anyone to get hurt. Not Mom, not you, Isabel agreed. You're my family now too. The girl's words deeply touched the two brothers. Hector looked at Valentine with an expression that mixed regret and determination. We're going to find her mother, he said, and we're going to make Morgana pay for everything she's done. Together, Valentine agreed. Together, Isabel repeated, placing her little hands over those of the two men. That night, while Isabel slept, the two brothers talked about the past. Hector told about the pain of losing everything he had built, and Valentine admitted his envy and the mistakes he had made. You know, Hector said, looking at Isabel, who was sleeping peacefully. It's been a long time since I've seen meaning in anything. But this girl, she has something special. She saved me, said Valentine. Not just physically, but in some way I don't fully understand yet. Maybe this is what we needed, Hector reflected. Someone who really needed us. Tomorrow we'll start investigating Morgana's farms, said Valentine. Whatever we find, we'll face it together. Whatever we find, Hector agreed. But neither of them imagined that Morgana already knew of their intentions and that she was preparing a trap that would test all the limits of their newfound fraternal union. The next morning, Valentine woke up with Isabel gently nudging his arm. Valentine, there's a pretty lady outside wanting to talk to you, she said, whispering. Valentine got up quickly and peeked through the opening of the tarp. An elegant woman, wearing an expensive suit and sunglasses, was standing a few feet from the shelter. Even from a distance, he immediately recognized Morgana Tessari. Isabel, I want you to stay inside here and don't come out for anything, he said firmly, no matter what happens. Why? Who is she? Asked the girl, noticing the tension in his voice. Someone very dangerous, replied Valentine, checking if Hector was still asleep. Wake up your Uncle Hector and tell him that Morgana is here. Valentine left the shelter and walked to where Morgana was waiting. She removed her sunglasses, revealing cold, calculating eyes. "Valentine Sterling," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "What a interesting situation you've gotten yourself into." "Morgana, what do you want?" "Straight to the point. I've always liked that about you." She walked slowly around him, like a predator circling its prey. "I heard you're asking some inconvenient questions about my rural properties." "I don't know what you're talking about," Valentine lied. "Don't lie to me, Valentine. It's offensive to my intelligence." Morgana stopped in front of him. "I know your brother is collecting information about my businesses. I know you're looking for a specific woman." Valentine's blood ran cold. "How do you know that?" "I have eyes and ears all over town. People who owe me favors, who depend on me." She smiled coldly. "Including some of the people you talked to yesterday." At that moment, Hector came out of the shelter, leaving Isabel hidden inside. "Morgana," he said in a controlled voice. "What an unexpected pleasure." Hector Sterling, the vengeful brother. Morgana turned to him. "I must admit I was impressed with the research you did on me. Very thorough." "Thank you," Hector replied sarcastically. "I pride myself on my work." "You should. You found information that could be problematic for me." Morgana crossed her arms. "If it were in the right hands, of course." "And what do you mean by that?" Valentine asked. "I mean that you two are playing with fire. And when you play with fire, sometimes innocent people get burned." The threat was clear. Valentine took a step forward. "If you lay a finger on Isabel." "Isabel?" Morgana feigned surprise. "What a pretty name. Is that the girl you're protecting? Delilah's daughter?" The silence that followed was tense. Morgana had confirmed that she knew Delilah, but had also made it clear that she knew about Isabel. "Where is she?" Hector asked directly. "Who? Delilah?" Morgana examined her perfectly manicured nails. "She's fine. Working hard to pay off her debts." "We want to see her," Valentine demanded. "That can be arranged," Morgana said casually, "under certain conditions." "What conditions?" "You stop asking questions. You stop investigating my businesses. And mainly, you stop spreading rumors about labor practices." Hector laughed humorlessly. "You want us to pretend we don't know you keep people in slavery." "I prefer the term committed workers," Morgana corrected. "People who have incurred debts and are working to pay them off. It's a perfectly legal agreement." "Legal maybe, but not moral," said Valentine. "Moral?" Morgana laughed. "How interesting to hear that from you, Valentine. You, who for years financed my projects without asking a single question about the methods." "I didn't know." "You didn't want to know," she interrupted. "There was money to be made, and you were happy to earn your share. Don't pretend you've developed a conscience overnight." Morgana's words hit Valentine like punches. She was right. He had chosen to ignore the details in favor of profits. "Even if that's true," he said, "now I know, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to fix it." "How noble," Morgana said sarcastically, "but I'm afraid it's too late for heroics." "What do you mean?" Hector asked. "I mean you have a choice to make. You can continue with this moral crusade and risk innocent people getting hurt, or you can be practical and accept my offer." "What offer?" Valentine asked, although he already suspected the answer. "Return all the documents you collected about me. Stop asking questions, and in return, I'll release Delilah." "What about the other people?" Hector asked. "The other workers you keep trapped?" "That's none of your business," Morgana replied coldly. "It is," said a small but determined voice behind them. Everyone turned to see Isabel coming out of the shelter, completely ignoring Valentine's instructions. She walked to stand between the two brothers, looking directly at Morgana. "You know my mom," she said, her voice showing no fear despite trembling. Morgana bent down to be at the girl's level. "I do, dear. She's working for me." "Is she sad?" Isabel asked. "Sometimes. But she's paying off her debts like a responsible person." "I want to see her," Isabel said simply. "That can be arranged," Morgana repeated. But your friends here need to agree to certain conditions. Isabel looked at Valentine and Hector. If you do what she wants, can I see my mom? Isabel, Valentine began. Can I or can't I? She insisted. You can, Morgana replied before the men could speak. You can see your mother and even stay with her. But only if they agree. Then agree, Isabel said to the two brothers. It's not that simple, little one, Hector said gently. There are other people who need help too. How many people? Isabel asked. Many, Hector replied. Isabel was quiet for a moment, processing the information. When she spoke again, her voice was firm. Then you have to help everyone. Not just Mom. Morgana stood up, visibly annoyed. What an inconvenient child. She's not inconvenient, said Valentine, putting his hand on Isabel's shoulder. She's brave. Courage doesn't pay debts, Morgana said coldly. Nor does it protect people who meddle where they shouldn't. Are you threatening us? Hector asked. I'm being realistic, Morgana replied. You have 24 hours to decide. Either you accept my offer and get Delilah back, or... Well, accidents happen. What kind of accidents? Valentine asked, instinctively pulling Isabel closer. The kind that makes people disappear, Morgana said with an icy smile. Permanently. With that threat, she put her sunglasses back on and walked to a black car that was parked on the corner. Before getting in, she turned around one last time. 24 hours, she repeated. Don't force me to be unpleasant. When the car disappeared, Isabel looked at Valentine and Hector. She's very bad, isn't she? Very, confirmed Valentine. And she's holding my mom prisoner? She is, said Hector. Then let's save her, Isabel said as if it were obvious. And all the other people too. It could be dangerous, Valentine warned. It doesn't matter, Isabel replied. Family doesn't abandon family. And at that moment, looking at that 4-year-old girl who faced danger without hesitation to save her mother, Valentine and Hector knew there was no turning back. After Morgana left, the three retreated to the cardboard shelter. Isabel snuggled between Valentine and Hector, but her eyes shone with determination, not fear. We need a plan, said Hector, constantly checking if they were being watched. Morgana isn't bluffing. She's capable of anything. I know where one of her farms is, said Valentine. I visited once with other investors. It's about 40 miles from here. 40 miles is too far to walk, Isabel observed practically. We're not walking, said Hector. I have a car hidden in the back of a garage. I borrowed it when I started investigating Morgana. Borrowed? Valentine asked with a raised eyebrow. All right, I stole it, Hector admitted. But it's for a good cause. Over the next few hours, they devised a plan. Hector had discovered that Morgana's main farm functioned as a kind of distribution center, where workers were separated and sent to different properties. If Delilah was really being held prisoner, that's where they would find her. But how are we going to get in? Valentine asked. There are certainly guards. Leave that to me, said Isabel suddenly. I'm small. I can get into places you can't. Absolutely not, said Valentine firmly. You're not going to risk yourself. But I can help, she protested. I'm good at hiding and I'm quiet. I can look for my mother while you distract the guards. Isabel, you're 4 years old, said Hector gently. It's too dangerous. You think I don't know it's dangerous? She asked, crossing her little arms. I've lived on the streets for 2 years. I know how to take care of myself. Valentine and Hector exchanged glances. The girl was right. She had survived alone in conditions that would defeat many adults. But the idea of putting her in danger, deliberately, was unacceptable. We'll try first without you, Valentine decided. If we can't, then we'll think of something else. Okay, Isabel agreed, but there was a mischievous glint in her eyes that should have alerted the two men. In the late afternoon, they headed to the garage where Hector had hidden the car. It was an old Ford, but it ran well. Isabel was thrilled with the idea of riding in a car. It was her first time ever. I've never been in a car, she said, running her fingers over the worn upholstery. "It's soft. When this is all over, I'll take you for car rides whenever you want," Valentine promised. "Really?" she asked, her eyes shining. "Really?" As they approached the farm, everyone's nervousness increased. Isabel, however, seemed strangely calm. "You're scared," she observed. "We're worried," Hector corrected. "Worried about you, about your mother, about all the people who could get hurt. My mom always said that when we're scared, we have to think about good things," Isabel said. "I'm thinking about when we're all together, me, you, and Mom." "That's a good thing to think about," Valentine agreed, feeling a little less nervous. When they reached the outskirts of the farm, they parked the car behind a dense thicket. The property was surrounded by a high fence, but it wasn't electrified. There were 2 guards at the main entrance, but they seemed relaxed. "I'm going around the fence," said Hector. "See if I can find a weak spot." "I'll go with you," said Valentine. "And I'll stay here in the car," said Isabel meekly. "You promise you'll stay here?" Valentine asked. "I promise," she said, but again there was something in her expression that should have worried them. The 2 brothers left, leaving Isabel alone. She waited until she could no longer see them, then quietly got out of the car. She had noticed something that the men hadn't. A part of the fence was damaged, with a hole too small for an adult, but perfect for a child. "Sorry, Valentine," she murmured to herself, "but you don't understand. I need to find my mom." With the agility of someone accustomed to hiding and moving unnoticed, Isabel crossed the hole in the fence. On the other side, there was an open field to the first buildings on the farm. She ran crouched, using bushes as cover. The farm was larger than she imagined. There were several sheds, a large house, and some smaller buildings. Isabel chose to start with the nearest shed. Inside, she found something that horrified her. There were at least 30 people, men, women, and even some children, sleeping on makeshift bunk beds. They all looked thin and tired. "Psst," she whispered to a woman who was awake. "Do you know a lady named Delilah?" The woman was startled to see the child, but something in Isabel's expression reassured her. "Delilah?" she whispered back. "There's a Delilah in shed 3. Brown hair, green eyes." "That's her," said Isabel, trying to contain her excitement. "She's my mom." "Your mom? But how did you get here?" "I came to get her," Isabel replied, as if it were obvious. "Where is shed 3? The woman pointed to a building on the other side of the yard. "But child, you can't stay here. The guards—" "I won't stay," Isabel assured her. "I just came to get my mom." She left the shed and ran to shed 3. When she entered, her heart almost stopped. There she was, her mother, Delilah, sleeping in one of the bunk beds. "Mom," Isabel whispered, gently touching the woman's arm. Delilah opened her eyes slowly, still sleepy. When she saw Isabel, she thought she was dreaming. "Isabel," she murmured. "My daughter." "Mom," Isabel whispered, throwing herself into her mother's arms. "I knew you hadn't abandoned me." Delilah hugged her daughter desperately, tears streaming down her face. "My little girl, my little one. How did you get here? Where have you been all this time?" "Living on the streets," Isabel explained quickly. "But now I have 2 uncles who take care of me. They came to help me find you." "2 uncles?" Delilah asked, confused. "Valentine and Hector. They're very good. But, Mom, we have to get out of here. They said this place is dangerous." Delilah held her daughter's face in her hands. "Isabel, I can't leave. I owe a lot of money. If I try to escape—" "It's not escape," said Isabel. "It's rescue. Valentine and Hector are going to take care of the money problem." At that moment, they heard voices outside, guards making rounds. "You have to go," Delilah said urgently. "If they catch you here—" "I'm not leaving without you," Isabel said stubbornly. "Isabel, listen to your mother. You need to—" "Well, well, well," said a familiar voice at the entrance of the shed. What a touching reunion. Morgana was standing in the doorway, flanked by 2 armed guards. Her smile was as cold as ice. I thought you might try something stupid, she said, but I didn't imagine you'd use a child. She came alone, said Delilah, pulling Isabel behind her. Don't hurt my daughter. Hurt? Morgana feigned offense. I don't hurt children, but now you've forced my hand. She signaled to the guards who approached. Take them both to the house. We're going to have a very interesting conversation with little Isabel's uncles. As she was being taken away with her mother, Isabel looked back, hoping that Valentine and Hector would forgive her for disobeying. But mostly, she hoped they were smart enough to save them. When Valentine and Hector returned to the car and found it empty, panic took over both of them. Valentine shouted Isabel's name several times, but only the echo answered in the silent night. She can't have gone far, said Hector, trying to stay calm. She's a 4-year-old child. You don't know Isabel, Valentine replied, running around the car looking for clues. She's capable of anything to find her mother. It was then that Hector found the hole in the fence. Here, he called. She went through here. Valentine looked at the small opening and cursed his own naivety. We should have foreseen this. She was never going to stand still while her mother was in danger. There's no point in blaming ourselves now, said Hector. We have to go after her. The two brothers went through the hole in the fence and ran towards the sheds. But when they got close to the first building, they saw lights turning on all over the property. Shouts and orders echoed in the air. They got her, said Valentine, his heart tightening. We don't know that. Hector tried to reassure him, but his own voice was tense. At that moment, one of the guards appeared behind them. Quiet and hands up, he ordered, pointing a gun. Valentine and Hector raised their hands slowly. The guard led them to the main house, where Morgana was waiting for them on the porch, still with her icy smile. What impressive punctuality, she said. You arrived exactly in time for the show. Where's Isabel? Valentine asked directly. Safe, Morgana replied, for now. If you hurt her, Hector began. I haven't hurt anyone, Morgana interrupted. Yet, but that may change depending on how you behave. She signaled, and the guards led the two brothers inside the house. In the main room, Valentine and Hector found a scene that made their hearts break. Isabel was sitting on the lap of a woman who was clearly her mother. Both had the same green eyes and brown hair. Delilah held her daughter protectively, but it was possible to see the terror in her eyes. Mom, Delilah! Isabel shouted upon seeing the two men. These are Valentine and Hector, the uncles I told you about. Delilah looked at the two men with a mixture of gratitude and confusion. You took care of my daughter. We tried, said Valentine, looking directly at Isabel. But she's very stubborn. I had to find you, Mom, said Isabel, snuggling closer into her mother's arms. I missed you so much. Me too, my daughter, murmured Delilah, kissing the girl's head. I missed you so much, too. What a touching scene, Morgana said sarcastically. But now, let's get down to business. She positioned herself in front of the group, her hands crossed behind her back. You forced my hand by coming here tonight. Now I can't simply let you go. What do you want? Hector asked. I want you to understand the reality of the situation, Morgana replied. Delilah owes me a considerable amount of money. Money she borrowed when her daughter needed medical treatment. What medical treatment? Valentine asked. Delilah lowered her eyes, embarrassed. Isabel. She has a heart condition. She needed surgery, but I didn't have the money. Mom, you didn't tell me that, said Isabel, looking at her mother. I didn't want to worry you, my daughter, Delilah replied. You were too little. Valentine felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. Isabel is sick. She is, confirmed Morgana, and time is running out. The older she gets, the more dangerous it becomes. Without treatment, she could... Morgana didn't finish the sentence, but the subtext was clear. That's a lie, said Hector. You're making this up to manipulate us. You think so? Morgana asked, taking a folder of documents from a nearby table. Here are all of Isabel's medical records, taken 2 years ago, when Delilah still had hope of getting the money. Valentine took the documents with trembling hands. They were detailed medical reports, confirming that Isabel had a serious heart condition that required urgent surgery. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" he asked Delilah. "Because I was ashamed," she replied, tears streaming down her face. "Ashamed of not being able to take care of my own daughter. You see," said Morgana, "Delilah isn't a villain. She's a desperate mother who made a difficult choice. She borrowed money to try to save her daughter." "And you took advantage of her desperation," Valentine accused. "I offered a solution," Morgana corrected. "Delilah couldn't pay, so she works for me until she pays off the debt. It's a perfectly fair business agreement." "Fair?" Hector exploded. "You're holding her prisoner!" "I ensure she pays her debts," Morgana said calmly, "something she couldn't do on her own." Isabel, who had listened to the whole conversation, stirred in her mother's lap. "Mom, is my heart sick?" Delilah hugged her daughter tighter. "It is, my daughter, but we're going to find a way to cure you." "Are you really?" Morgana asked. "Because the surgery costs a lot of money, more money than you have." "How much?" Valentine asked directly. $200,000, Morgana replied, plus the interest on Delilah's original debt, which now amounts to $50,000. $250,000, Hector repeated. "You know we don't have that money." "I know," said Morgana, "but I know someone who does." She turned to Valentine. "Your accounts may be blocked, but you still have assets, properties, investments, the company itself." "You want me to sell everything?" Valentine asked. "I want you to make a choice," Morgana replied. "You can keep your pride and your possessions, or you can save this child's life." "It's not a choice," Valentine said immediately. "I'll do anything to save Isabel." "Anything?" Morgana asked, her smile widening. "Even if it means working for me?" "What do you mean?" Hector asked suspiciously. "I mean you two have skills that I can use," Morgana explained. "Valentine knows the construction market like no one else. Hector is an excellent investigator. Work for me, and I'll release Delilah and pay for Isabel's treatment." "And if we refuse?" Valentine asked. "Then Delilah continues working for me, Isabel continues to be sick, and you two, well, you two will have to deal with the consequences of trespassing on my property." "What consequences?" Hector asked. "Prison, at least. Trespassing, kidnapping, attempted robbery. I can think of several charges." "You can't frame us for trying to save a child," Valentine protested. "I can, and I will," Morgana said coldly, "unless you accept my proposal." Isabel stirred in her mother's lap again. "Valentine, Hector, you don't have to do this for me." "Of course we do," said Valentine without hesitating. "You're our family." "Our family," Hector agreed. "Then accept," said Morgana. "Work for me for 2 years. Do what I say, without questioning. In return, I release Delilah. Pay for Isabel's treatment and you're free of any charges." Valentine and Hector exchanged glances. It was a perfect trap. Morgana had used their love for Isabel against them. "How long do we have to decide?" Valentine asked. "Until tomorrow at noon," Morgana replied. "After that, the offer is off the table." "And if we accept, when can Isabel have the surgery?" Hector asked. "Immediately," Morgana guaranteed. "I know the best surgeons in the country." Isabel looked at the 2 men who had become her family. "You shouldn't worry about me," she said. "I don't want you to suffer because of me." "You won't suffer," Valentine promised, kneeling in front of her. "I promise you're going to be okay." "We promise," Hector corrected. And that night, trapped in Morgana's house, everyone knew that their lives were about to change forever. That night, everyone was kept in Morgana's main house, in separate rooms, but with guards at the door. Isabel was with Delilah, finally reunited with her mother after 2 years of separation, but the circumstances prevented any celebration. "Mom," Isabel whispered in the darkness, "I feel pain in my chest sometimes. Is it because of the sick heart?" Delilah hugged her daughter tighter, trying to hide her tears. "Sometimes, my daughter, But we're going to take care of it, I promise. Valentine and Hector are going to help me, aren't they? Isabel asked. They are, Delilah confirmed. I can see that they love you very much. I love them too, said Isabel. They saved me when I was alone. Valentine taught me that family isn't just blood. In the next room, Valentine and Hector whispered about their limited options. We can't agree to work for her, said Hector. You know what kind of things she'll make us do. And we can't refuse, Valentine replied. Isabel will die without treatment. There has to be another way, Hector insisted. There's always another way. What? Our accounts are blocked. We have no resources and now we're fugitive criminals. Morgana has all the trump cards. Hector was silent for a moment. Remember when we were kids and Dad told us stories about heroes who sacrificed everything to save innocent people? I remember, said Valentine. I thought they were just stories. Maybe they're not, Hector reflected. Maybe sometimes we need to be real heroes. The next morning, Morgana gathered everyone in the main room. Isabel was visibly weaker, her skin pale and her breathing a little labored. Decided? Morgana asked directly. Before answering, said Valentine, we want guarantees. We want to see the contracts, meet the doctors, make sure you're going to keep your part of the deal. Of course, said Morgana, looking pleased. I always keep my agreements. She produced a stack of documents. Here are the employment contracts, 2 years of exclusive services. Here is the contract with the clinic where Isabel will be operated on. And here is the document releasing all of Delilah's debts. Valentine examined the papers carefully. Everything looked legal, but there were clauses that worried him. What does exclusive services mean? He asked. It means you will work only for me, Morgana explained. You will do what I say when I say. Construction, investigation, negotiations, whatever is necessary. And if we refuse a task? Hector asked. Then you will break the contract, said Morgana coldly. And all guarantees will be cancelled. That's blackmail, said Delilah, speaking for the first time. That's business, Morgana corrected. Everyone wins. Isabel gets cured, Delilah gets free, and you two gain experience. Different. What kind of experience? Valentine asked, although he already suspected the answer. You're going to help me expand my business, said Morgana. Build new farms, find new employees. You want us to help you enslave more people, Hector said directly. I prefer to think of it as giving job opportunities to desperate people, Morgana replied. Mom, what does enslave mean? Isabel asked innocently. It means forcing people to work against their will, Delilah explained gently. That's bad, said Isabel categorically. Valentine, Hector, you can't do bad things. Little one, said Valentine, kneeling in front of her. Sometimes people need to do things they don't want to in order to protect those they love. But you taught me that there's always a right way to do things, Isabel protested. Usually there is, Valentine agreed, but sometimes. There always is, Isabel interrupted firmly. There's always a right way. It was at this moment that Hector had an idea. Morgana, can I make a counter-proposal? I'm listening, she said, curious. What if, instead of 2 years of work, we offered something more valuable? What could be more valuable than 2 years of your services? Information, said Hector. Information about all of Valentine's investors, all the political connections, all the financial schemes. Morgana leaned forward, interested. Continue. Valentine has connections with dozens of businessmen, politicians, judges. People who can be useful to you. We give you all this information and you release Delilah and pay for Isabel's treatment. That's betraying all the people who trust me, Valentine protested. People who have taken advantage of you for years, Hector replied. People who knew about Morgana's schemes and pretended they didn't. Morgana considered the proposal. Interesting. But how to ensure that the information is true? Because, said Hector, if you find out we lied, you can destroy us completely. We have more to lose lying than telling the truth. Hector, you can't ask me to do this, said Valentine. I can, and I am asking, Hector replied. These people never really cared about you. Isabel cares. I care, said Isabel, holding Valentine's hand, but I don't want you to do bad things for me. It wouldn't be bad, Hector tried to explain. It would be justice. Justice is when bad people are punished, said Isabel, not when good people do bad things. Morgana watched this discussion with growing impatience. You have 5 minutes to decide. Accept my original proposal, accept Hector's counterproposal, or face the consequences. What consequences? Asked Delilah. Delilah goes back to forced labor indefinitely. Isabel goes without treatment until it's too late. And you two go to prison. And if we choose the third option, Valentine asked. There is no third option, said Morgana. Yes, there is, said a new voice in the doorway. Everyone turned to see a middle-aged man entering the room. He was elegant, well-dressed, and had a serious expression on his face. Who are you? Morgana asked, clearly irritated by the interruption. I'm Dr. Roberto Mendez, attorney, said the man. And I represent these gentlemen. They didn't hire me, said Morgana. No, agreed Dr. Roberto, but they received a substantial inheritance that allows them to pay all of Delilah's debts and Isabel's treatment. What inheritance? Valentine asked, confused. From your Aunt Hope, explained the lawyer. She passed away 6 months ago and left a valuable property to you. It took a while to locate the heirs, but I finally succeeded. We don't have an Aunt Hope, said Hector. Yes, you do, insisted Dr. Roberto. Aunt by affinity. She was very close to your mother. That's a lie, said Morgana. You're making this up. I have all the documents here, said Dr. Roberto, showing a folder. Certificates, will, property assessment, all legal and certified. How much is the property worth? Valentine asked. $300,000, replied the lawyer. More than enough for your needs. Isabel looked at the lawyer with her big eyes. Are you real, or are you an angel? Dr. Roberto smiled. I'm real, little one, and I'm here to help. Morgana was visibly furious. That doesn't change anything. They still trespassed on my property. Actually, said Dr. Roberto, it changes everything. Because I have a court order here to investigate this property for suspected forced labor. You have no authority here, said Morgana. But I do, said another voice in the doorway. A sheriff entered the room, accompanied by several officers. Morgana Tessari, you're under arrest. And at that moment, everything changed again. Chaos erupted in the room as the officers entered. Morgana tried to run but was quickly restrained. Her guards, realizing that the situation had completely changed, dropped their weapons and surrendered without resistance. This is a misunderstanding, Morgana shouted as she was handcuffed. I have rights. I have lawyers. You have the right to remain silent, replied Sheriff Cavallo coldly, and I suggest you use that right. Isabel, still in Delilah's lap, watched everything with wide eyes. Mom, is the bad woman going away? Yes, my daughter, replied Delilah, hugging the girl. She won't hurt anyone anymore. Dr. Roberto approached Valentine and Hector. Gentlemen, we need to talk in private. About the inheritance? Valentine asked. Among other things, replied the lawyer discreetly. After Morgana was taken away and the situation calmed down, Dr. Roberto led everyone to a separate room. Isabel was noticeably more tired, leaning against Delilah's chest. First, began the lawyer, I need to be honest with you. There is no Aunt Hope. I knew it, said Hector. Then why? Because, interrupted Dr. Roberto, there is someone who wants to help you. Someone who knew about the situation and decided to intervene. Who? Asked Valentine. I prefer not to reveal the identity for now, said the lawyer, but I can guarantee that the money is real and available. Why would someone do that? Asked Delilah suspiciously. Because, said Dr. Roberto, looking at Isabel, some people believe that every child deserves a chance to live. It doesn't matter who's helping, said Valentine. What matters is that we can save Isabel. About that, said Dr. Roberto. "I've already scheduled a consultation with the best pediatric heart surgeon in the state, Dr. Marcos Andrade. He can operate on Isabel next week." "Next week?" asked Delilah, hugging her daughter. "So fast?" "Time is essential," explained the lawyer. "The longer we wait, the greater the risk." "I'm scared," admitted Isabel for the first time. "What if something goes wrong?" "Nothing will go wrong," Valentine promised, kneeling in front of her. "You're the strongest girl I know." "Stronger than you?" asked Hector jokingly. "Much stronger," confirmed Isabel with a weak smile. "And after the surgery?" asked Delilah. "Where are we going to live?" "About that," said Dr. Roberto. "Our benefactor also provided a house, small but comfortable. You can live there for as long as you need." "All of us?" asked Isabel hopefully. "All of you," confirmed the lawyer. "A family." In the following days, while waiting for the surgery date, Valentine and Hector dedicated themselves to taking care of Isabel. She was visibly weaker, but maintained her cheerful spirit. "Valentine," she said one morning, "can I ask you something?" "Anything, little one. If I can't make it through the surgery, do you promise you'll take care of Mom?" "Isabel, don't talk like that," Valentine protested, feeling his heart tighten. "I just want to be sure," she said simply. "Promise?" "I promise," he said, fighting back tears. "But you're going to be okay. We're all going to be okay." "I know," said Isabel. "I just wanted to be sure." On the day of the surgery, everyone was nervous. Isabel, however, seemed strangely calm. "I'm not scared," she said when the nurses came to get her, "because I know you'll be here when I wake up." "We'll be," promised Delilah, kissing her daughter's forehead. "Always," added Valentine. "Forever," completed Hector. The surgery lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of agony for Delilah, Valentine, and Hector, who walked the hospital corridors non-stop. Dr. Roberto was also present, offering moral support. "She's going to be okay," Delilah repeated like a mantra. "She's strong. She's going to be okay." "She will," agreed Valentine, although his own faith was being tested. When Dr. Marcos Andrade finally appeared, still in his surgical scrubs, everyone stood up at once. "How is she?" asked Delilah desperately. "The surgery was a success," said the doctor with a smile. "Isabel is really a strong girl. Her heart is working perfectly now." "She's going to be okay?" Valentine asked. "She's going to be great," confirmed the doctor. "With proper care, she can lead a completely normal life." "Can we see her?" asked Hector. "She's still sleeping, but you can see her." "Only one person at a time at first." Delilah was the first, of course. When she saw Isabel in the hospital bed, pale but breathing peacefully, she began to cry with relief. "My brave girl," she whispered, holding her daughter's little hand. "You made it." When Isabel woke up a few hours later, she found everyone around her bed. "Hi," she said, with a weak but cheerful voice. "Did everything go well?" "Everything went well," confirmed Delilah, kissing her forehead. "You're cured." "Really cured?" asked Isabel. "Really cured," confirmed Dr. Marcos. "Your heart is perfect now." "That's good," said Isabel, "because I have a lot to do when I get out of here." "What kind of thing?" Valentine asked curiously. "Play, run, help you find other children who need help," she said, as if it were obvious. "Other children?" asked Hector. "Of course," said Isabel. "When I was on the streets, I met many children alone. Now that I'm strong, I can help them too." "You want to help other children?" asked Delilah. "I want to," confirmed Isabel, "just like you helped me." Valentine and Hector exchanged glances. Even after everything she had been through, Isabel still thought of others. "You know," said Valentine slowly, "that's not a bad idea." "What do you mean?" Hector asked. "I mean that maybe it's time to use our resources for something that really matters," Valentine explained. "Helping children like Isabel." "You're talking about a charity?" asked Dr. Roberto. "No," said Valentine. "I'm talking about a family that grows every time it finds a child who needs help." "A big family," said Isabel excitedly, "with many happy children." "Very big," agreed Hector, smiling. "And with a lot of love," added Delilah. "A lot of love," confirmed Valentine. At that moment, in the hospital ward, a new family was being born. A family built not by blood ties, but by love, sacrifice, and the determination of a 4-year-old girl who had taught 3 adults the true meaning of the word family. "Can I ask a question?" said Isabel suddenly. "Of course," replied Valentine. "Who is our mysterious benefactor?" Dr. Roberto smiled. "Maybe it's time to reveal that," he said. "Reveal what?" asked Delilah. "That there is no mysterious benefactor," said the lawyer. "The money came from yourselves." "How so?" asked Hector, confused. "Valentine, do you remember when you signed those papers at the hospital?" "I remember," said Valentine. "But they were health insurance papers." "No," said Dr. Roberto. "They were papers authorizing the sale of all your assets, your company, your properties, your investments, everything." "I did that?" asked Valentine, surprised. "You did," confirmed the lawyer, "without hesitation." "And me?" asked Hector. "You waived all your rights to the family inheritance," explained Dr. Roberto, "all to ensure there was enough money to save Isabel." "You gave everything for me?" asked Isabel, tears in her eyes. "We did," confirmed Valentine. "And we'd do it again. 1,000 times," added Hector. "But now you have nothing," said Isabel worriedly. "We have you," said Delilah, "and each other. That's everything." "That's more than everything," Valentine corrected. "It's a family." And for the first time in her life, Isabel understood that there were people willing to sacrifice everything for her, not because they had an obligation, but because they truly loved her. 3 weeks after the surgery, Isabel was recovering rapidly in the small house that Dr. Roberto had provided. It was a simple house with 2 bedrooms, a living room and a kitchen, but it was full of love and laughter. For the first time in years, all members of the makeshift family were truly together. "Mom, look how I can run now," shouted Isabel, running around the small yard without getting tired. "My heart is really strong." Delilah smiled, watching her daughter play. "It is, my daughter. You're completely cured. And now I can help you find other children," said Isabel excitedly, "like we promised." Valentine and Hector were sitting on the porch, watching the girl play. In recent days, they had discussed the future a lot. "We have to start over," said Valentine. "No money, no company, no contacts." "For the first time in my life, that doesn't scare me," replied Hector. "I discovered that I can be happy without those things." "Me too," agreed Valentine. "But we need a plan. We have a family to support now." "About that," said Dr. Roberto, appearing on the porch, "I have a proposal for you." "What kind of proposal?" asked Hector. "Well," began the lawyer, "with Morgana's arrest, her properties were confiscated. The government is looking for people to temporarily manage those farms." "You want us to work on Morgana's farms?" Valentine asked. "I want you to transform those farms into something different," explained Dr. Roberto. "Places where people like Delilah can actually work, earning fair wages, in dignified conditions." "Is that possible?" asked Delilah, joining the conversation. "With your experience in construction and management, it's perfectly possible," confirmed the lawyer. "And the government is willing to provide initial resources." "What kind of resources?" asked Hector. "Salaries for you, money for renovations, training programs for workers," listed Dr. Roberto. "All supervised, of course, to ensure there are no more abuses." "Can I help too?" asked Isabel, appearing out of nowhere. "How so, little one?" asked Valentine. "I can talk to the children who live on the farms," she explained. "They'll trust me because I'm a child too." "Isabel, we don't want you to be exposed to dangerous situations," said Delilah worriedly. "It won't be dangerous," Isabel assured her. "I'll always be with you, but children need someone who understands them." "She's right," said Hector. "Traumatized children trust other children more." "But only if she's always accompanied," Valentine insisted. "Always," promised Isabel. 2 weeks later, they were at Morgana's first confiscated farm. The place was depressing, dirty sheds, malnourished workers, scared children hiding behind their parents. "My God," murmured Delilah, observing the conditions. "I was lucky. My situation was much better than this." "No one should live like this," said Valentine, again feeling guilty for having financed, even indirectly, that situation. "We're going to change that," said Hector, determined. "We're going to transform this place. First," said Dr. Roberto, "we need to gain people's trust. They're afraid of any change." "Leave it to me," said Isabel, walking towards a group of children who were hiding behind their mothers. "Hi," she said gently. "My name is Isabel. Do you want to be my friends?" The children looked at her suspiciously, but there was something in Isabel's warm manner that reassured them. "Do you live here?" she asked, sitting on the ground to be at their level. "We do," answered a girl of about 6, timidly. "Are you going to live here too?" "I am," said Isabel. "My family and I came to make this place better." "Better how?" asked a boy. "With clean houses, tasty food, a school for you to study in," Isabel explained, "and mostly with people who care about you dearly." "Do you promise?" asked the girl. "I promise," said Isabel. "My family always keeps its promises." During the next few weeks, Valentine and Hector worked tirelessly to renovate the facilities. Delilah organized food and health programs for the families, and Isabel became the link between the children and the adults, translating fears and hopes. "Isabel," said Valentine one night, "are you happy here?" "Very happy," she replied. "I'm helping other children like you helped me. Don't you miss having a normal life? Playing just for the sake of playing?" "This is playing," she said simply, "playing at making other people happy." "You're very wise for a 4-year-old, observed Hector. "I'm turning 5 soon," Isabel corrected. "And I'm not wise. I just learned from you that helping others makes us happy." 3 months later, the transformation was impressive. The farm had renovated houses, a functioning school, a community garden, and mostly smiles on the faces of the children. "You did it," said Dr. Roberto during a visit. "You turned a place of suffering into a place of hope." "We all did it," Valentine corrected, "including the people who live here." "Especially Isabel," added Hector. "She's the heart of it all." "I'm not," Isabel protested. "You are the heart. I just help." "You're our inspiration," said Delilah, hugging her daughter. "You taught us that love can transform anything." That night, during the community dinner that had become a tradition, Isabel made an announcement. "I want to tell you something," she said, climbing onto a chair to be taller. "A year ago, I was alone on the streets, hungry and scared. Today, I have a big family, a strong heart, and many friends." "And we're happy to have you," shouted one of the children. "I'm happy too," Isabel replied. "But you know what's the best? Now no one is alone anymore. We all have family." "What kind of family?" asked another boy. "A chosen family," Isabel explained. "People who choose to love each other, even if they're not blood relatives." "Like you chose to love us?" asked a girl. "Exactly," confirmed Isabel. "And you chose to love us too." "Forever?" asked a little child. "Forever," promised Isabel. "Because chosen family is family forever." At that moment, Valentine realized that they had created something much bigger than a simple renovated farm. They had created a community, an extended family based on love and mutual care. "Hector," he whispered to his brother, "do you think we did it?" "Did what?" asked Hector. "Fixed our lives, became better people." "I think so," replied Hector. "But it wasn't us who fixed ourselves." "No?" "No," said Hector, looking at Isabel, who was laughing with the other children. "It was her who fixed us. That 4-year-old girl who found us tied to a gate and decided we were worth saving." "She didn't know what she was doing," said Valentine. "Yes, she did," Hector corrected. "She knew exactly what she was doing. She was saving a family that didn't even exist yet," observed Valentine. "All families start like that," said Hector, "with someone deciding that it's worth loving." And looking at Isabel, surrounded by dozens of children who now had hope for the future, Valentine knew that his brother was right. Sometimes, the love of one person is enough to transform the entire world. But the biggest transformation was yet to come. 6 months after the transformation of the first farm, Isabel turned 5 years old. The party was organized by the entire community, with the children helping to decorate and the adults preparing a special meal. It was the first time Isabel had a real birthday party. "Make a wish, my daughter," said Delilah, holding the simple but lovingly made cake. Isabel closed her eyes and blew out the 5 candles. When she opened her eyes, she was smiling. "What wish did you make?" asked one of the children. "I wished that all the children in the world have a family that loves them," Isabel replied, "like we have." "That's a lot of people," observed a boy. "Then we'll start with the children here in West Virginia," said Isabel pragmatically. "Then we'll worry about the rest of the world." The adults laughed, but Valentine and Hector exchanged glances. In recent months, they had received several requests from other towns and states, asking for help to renovate similar institutions. "Isabel," said Valentine after the party, "do you really want to help more children?" "Of course," she replied. "Why are you asking?" "Because," said Hector, "we've received invitations to help other farms, in other places." "Invitations from who?" asked Delilah. "From the government, from social organizations, from people who heard about our work here," Valentine explained. "Does that mean we'd have to travel?" asked Isabel excitedly. "It means we'd have to leave this place," said Delilah. "Leave the people who have become our family." "No," said Isabel firmly. "We're not leaving anyone." "How so?" asked Hector. "We're taking our family with us," Isabel explained as if it were obvious. "Whoever wants to come with us can come." "Isabel, it's not that simple," said Valentine. "People have their lives here. But they can also have lives in other places," Isabel argued. "Especially if it's to help other children." The following week, Dr. Roberto brought an official proposal from the federal government. It was a national program to recover confiscated rural properties with the aim of transforming them into sustainable communities. "They want you to lead this program," explained the lawyer, "based on the success you had here." "How many properties are there?" asked Hector. 15 spread across 8 states, replied Dr. Roberto, each with dozens of families who need help. "That's hundreds of children," Isabel calculated quickly. "More than 1,000, confirmed the lawyer. 1,000 children who could have a better life." "We have to accept," said Isabel categorically. "We can't leave 1,000 children without help." "But it would mean being away from home for years," said Delilah worriedly. "Mom," said Isabel, holding her mother's hand, "our home isn't a place. Our home is us. Wherever we are together, that's where our home will be." "She's right," said Hector. "We learned that family isn't about place. It's about people." "And what if some of the people here don't want to come?" asked Valentine. "Then some stay and some go," Isabel replied. "And when we finish the work there, we come back to visit. Family doesn't end just because it's far away." 2 months later, they began the journey. To everyone's surprise, more than half of the families on the farm decided to accompany them. They formed a caravan of trucks and buses, carrying not only people, but also the hope of transforming more lives. "It seems we're running away," commented Delilah on the first day of the trip. "We're not running away," Isabel corrected. "We're spreading love." The first stop was at a farm in rural Alabama, where conditions were even worse than what they had found in West Virginia. There were more than 40 families living in overcrowded shacks without running water or electricity. "My God," murmured Delilah upon seeing the situation, "how can people live like this?" "They won't live like this for long," promised Isabel, watching the malnourished children hiding behind their parents. "Hi," she said to a boy of about 3 who was crying. "Why are you sad?" "Because I'm hungry," the boy replied honestly. "Then we're going to fix that," said Isabel, taking his hand. "Come with me." Within minutes, Isabel had organized the other children to divide the food they had brought. Even though it was little, they managed to ensure that all the children ate something. "How does she do that?" asked Hector to Valentine. "I don't know," replied Valentine, "but she has a gift for making people trust her." "It's because she really cares," observed Delilah. "The children feel it." During the next 3 months, they worked tirelessly on the renovation of the Alabama farm. Isabel became the unofficial leader of the children, organizing educational and recreational activities while the adults worked on the construction. "Isabel," said Valentine one night, "aren't you tired of all this?" "Tired of what?" she asked, genuinely confused. "Of always taking care of others. Of never having time for yourself. But I like taking care of others," she replied, "and I have plenty of time for myself. It's just that my time for myself is time with you. Don't you want to play with dolls, watch cartoons, do things that normal kids do?" "This is what normal kids do," said Isabel, pointing to the children playing in the renovated yard. "I just like to play together with other children." "But you're the leader," observed Hector. "You always have to be responsible." "I don't have to be," Isabel corrected. "I choose to be. It's different." "Why do you choose to be?" asked Delilah. "Because," said Isabel, thinking carefully, "when I was alone on the streets, I dreamed that someone would come help me. Now I can be that person for other children." "You've already helped many children," said Valentine. "There are still many more to help," Isabel replied. "Doctor, Roberto said there are 1,000 children on the farms. We've already helped about 200. There are still 800 left." "You really intend to help them all?" asked Hector. "Of course," replied Isabel, as if it were obvious. "We promised we were going to do that." "Isabel, you were 4 years old when you made that promise," said Delilah. "You didn't know what you were promising." "Yes, I did," Isabel insisted. "I knew I was promising to love other children like you loved me." "And if it's too difficult," asked Valentine. "Then we do it anyway," Isabel replied. "Important things are always difficult." "And if it takes too long?" asked Hector. "Then we take a long time," said Isabel. "Family isn't in a hurry." "And if some people don't want our help?" asked Delilah. "Then we respect them and look for other people who do," Isabel replied. "But we don't give up." That night, after Isabel fell asleep, the 3 adults talked about the girl's determination. "She really believes she can change the world," said Delilah. "Maybe she can," said Hector. "She's already changed our world." "Changed the world of 200 children," added Valentine. "And what if she's right?" asked Delilah. "If we can really help all those children, then," said Valentine, "we will have lived the most meaningful life someone can live." "It's worth trying," agreed Hector. "Even if it's impossible?" asked Delilah. "Especially because it seems impossible," said Valentine. "Isabel taught us that the most important things are always the ones that seem impossible." "Like loving a child who isn't our biological daughter," observed Hector. "Like 2 brothers who hated each other becoming family again," added Valentine. "Like a 4-year-old girl saving 3 lost adults," completed Delilah. And that night, looking at Isabel, who was sleeping peacefully, surrounded by drawings that the other children had made for her, everyone knew that nothing was impossible when you had enough love. But in the coming months, that love would be tested in ways that none of them could imagine. 2 years had passed since they began the journey through the farms. Isabel was now 7 years old and had grown a lot, not only in height, but in wisdom and leadership. They had transformed 8 properties, helped more than 600 children, and created a network of communities interconnected by love and solidarity. They were now at the most difficult farm of all, in the outback of Arizona, where conditions were extreme, and people, initially, very distrustful of any change. "They don't want our help," reported Hector after a meeting with community leaders. "They say they've been deceived many times before." "Of course they don't," said Isabel, swinging her legs on the chair where she was sitting. I didn't want help at first either. You were a 4-year-old child alone on the streets, observed Delilah. It's not the same thing. Yes, it is, insisted Isabel. When we've suffered a lot, we become afraid to trust. So how do we convince them? Asked Valentine. We don't convince, Isabel replied. We show. Show how? Asked Hector. By staying here and being a real family, Isabel explained. When they see we're different, they'll trust us. Isabel, we don't have time to spend months waiting, said Delilah. We still have 7 farms to visit. Mom, said Isabel patiently, we can't help 7 farms if we can't help 1. But the other children are waiting, argued Delilah. And aren't the children here waiting? Asked Isabel. Just because they're more distrustful, do they deserve less help? Delilah sighed. Her daughter had become a formidable negotiator, always using the logic of love to win any argument. All right, agreed Valentine. We'll stay as long as it takes. During the next few weeks, the family simply lived in the community without forcing any changes. Isabel played with the local children. Delilah helped the mothers with household chores. Valentine and Hector offered small repairs without asking anything in return. They still don't trust us, observed Hector after a month. Yes, they do, Isabel corrected. They just don't trust that we're going to stay. How do you know? Asked Delilah. Because Maria said, replied Isabel. She's my friend. She said her dad said you're going to leave when you're done pretending to care. Pretending? Asked Valentine indignantly. They don't know we're not pretending, Isabel explained, because no one has ever really cared about them before. That's very sad, said Delilah. It is, agreed Isabel, but we can change that. How? Asked Hector. I'm not leaving, Isabel replied simply. Isabel, we can't stay here forever, said Valentine. We have responsibilities to the other farms. It doesn't have to be forever, Isabel said. It just needs to be long enough for them to know we're family. How long is long enough? Asked Delilah. I don't know, admitted Isabel, but we'll know when the time comes. It was 2 weeks later that the event happened that would change everything. Isabel was playing with the local children when she started to feel ill. First it was dizziness, then chest pain, and finally she fainted. Isabel, cried Delilah, running to her daughter. What's happening? I don't know, said Valentine, picking the girl up. She was fine 5 minutes ago. It could be her heart, Hector said worriedly. Let's take her to the hospital. The nearest hospital is 3 hours away, informed Joe, one of the community leaders from Joe's bakery. And the road is rough. Then let's go, said Valentine, carrying Isabel to the car. Wait, said Mrs. Gable, one of the oldest women in the community. My daughter is a nurse. Let her examine the girl first. We don't have time for... Delilah started to say. Mom, murmured Isabel weakly, let Auntie look. The nurse examined Isabel carefully. It's not her heart, she said finally. It's exhaustion. She's very thin and dehydrated. Exhaustion? Asked Delilah. But she's just a child who carries the weight of the world on her shoulders, observed the nurse. When was the last time she truly rested? Delilah, Valentine, and Hector looked at each other. They couldn't remember. She's always taking care of someone, murmured Delilah. Never stops. She needs to stop, said the nurse firmly. She needs to rest, eat right, be a child. I can't, whispered Isabel. There are so many children who need help. And you can't help anyone if you get sick, said Mrs. Gable gently. You need to take care of yourself first. But the other children, insisted Isabel. They'll be here when you get better, guaranteed Joe. We'll take care of them while you rest. You will? Asked Isabel, surprised, tears welling up in her eyes. Of course, said Mrs. Gable. Isn't that what family does? Takes care of each other? Are you our family? Asked Isabel, tears streaming down her face. We are, confirmed Joe. You've shown that you truly care. Now let us show you that we care too. In the following 2 weeks, while Isabel recovered, the entire community mobilized to take care of her. The women prepared her favorite foods. The men told her stories to distract her. The children made drawings to decorate her makeshift room. "They really care," murmured Isabel to Delilah one afternoon. "Of course they care," said Delilah. "You've won everyone's hearts." "It wasn't me," said Isabel. "It was you. You taught me that love is contagious." "How so?" asked Delilah. "When you loved me, I learned to love other people," explained Isabel. "And when I loved other people, they learned to love too." "And now?" asked Delilah. "Now we have a huge family," said Isabel, smiling. "On 8 different farms." "Aren't you worried about the other farms anymore?" asked Delilah. "I am," said Isabel. "But now I know I don't have to do everything alone." "How so?" "The people here will help," explained Isabel. "Joe said that some men can come with us to the next farms, and Mrs. Gable said that some women want to help too." "They want to go with you?" asked Delilah, surprised. "They do," confirmed Isabel. "Because now they know that helping others makes us happy." "So, we're going to have an even bigger family," observed Delilah. "Much bigger," agreed Isabel. "And the bigger the family, the more love there is for everyone." "Are you sure about that?" asked Delilah. "I am," said Isabel, "because love doesn't diminish when it's divided. Love increases." "Where did you get that wisdom?" asked Delilah, laughing. "From you," replied Isabel. "You taught me everything about love." "We learned from you," corrected Delilah. "Then we learned from each other," said Isabel. "That's what family does." 2 weeks later, when Isabel was fully recovered, the caravan that departed from the Harmony Creek farm was twice as large as the one that had arrived. 15 families decided to join the mission to help other children. "We're going to make it," said Isabel on the first day of the trip to the next farm. "We're going to help all the children." "All of them?" asked Valentine. "All of them," confirmed Isabel, "because now there are many of us, and together nothing is impossible." "Even if it's very difficult?" asked Hector. "Especially because it's very difficult," said Isabel. "The most important things are always the most difficult." "And if it takes a long time?" asked Delilah. "Then we'll take a long time," replied Isabel. "Love isn't in a hurry. And if some people don't want our help," asked Joe, "then we'll stay until they do," said Isabel. "Just like you did with me." "Just like we did with you," corrected Mrs. Gable. "Just like family does," completed Isabel. And on that dusty road in the outback of Arizona, a caravan of love continued toward the next challenge, carrying the certainty that, with enough love, anything was possible. But the biggest surprise of all was still waiting at the last farm on the list. 3 years had passed since they began their journey. Isabel was now 8 years old and had helped transform 14 farms. There was only one left, the last on the list, located deep in the heart of West Virginia. The caravan that now accompanied them included more than 100 people from all the farms they had visited. "Isabel," said Valentine on the morning they arrived at the last farm, "are you nervous?" "A little," she admitted. "It's strange to think that after this one, we won't be traveling anymore." "Are you going to miss it?" asked Hector. "I'm going to miss meeting new children," said Isabel, "but I'm not going to miss seeing them suffer." "And what are we going to do when we're done?" asked Delilah. "We're going home," replied Isabel. "Which home?" asked Delilah. "We've visited so many places." "All the homes," said Isabel, smiling. "We're going to visit all our families." The last farm was different from all the others. It was larger, more organized, and the conditions, though not ideal, were significantly better than they had found in the other places. "Looks like someone's already started working here," observed Joe. "Who could it be?" asked Mrs. Gable. "Let's find out," said Isabel, walking toward the main building. When they entered the administrative office, they found a middle-aged woman organizing documents. She looked up when she saw them enter and smiled. "You must be the Sterling family," she said. "I'm Margaret, the new administrator." "New administrator?" asked Valentine. "I thought the farm was still under intervention." "It is," confirmed Margaret, "but I received authorization to begin some renovations before your arrival." "What kind of renovations?" asked Hector. "Come see," said Margaret, leading them outside. What they saw left them speechless. The farm had been completely transformed. There were new houses, a functioning school, a recreation area for the children, and most impressively a large sign at the entrance that read, "Welcome to the chosen family home." "Who did this?" asked Delilah, amazed. "Someone who was inspired by your work," replied Margaret. "Someone who believes that every child deserves a family." "But who?" insisted Isabel. "I did," said a familiar voice behind them. Everyone turned to see Morgan approaching, but she was completely different. She wore simple clothes. Her hair was loose and natural, and her eyes, which had once been cold, now shone with genuine warmth. "Morgan?" asked Valentine incredulously. "Aren't you supposed to be in prison?" "I received parole," she explained, "for good behavior and community service." "Community service?" asked Hector suspiciously. "I helped organize educational programs in prison," said Morgan, "teaching other inmates to read and write, and mainly I learned about your work." "How so?" asked Delilah. "Your story spread," explained Morgan. "The story of a girl who saved 3 adults and then saved hundreds of children. It became national news." "We didn't know that," murmured Valentine. "I read every article," continued Morgan. "I saw the pictures of the transformed farms. I read the testimonials of the families who were helped. And mostly, I read about Isabel." "About me?" asked Isabel curiously. "About how a 4-year-old taught adults that love is more powerful than money," said Morgan, kneeling in front of the girl. "And how that same child decided that she would help all the other children in the world." "I couldn't help all of them," said Isabel. "I only managed to help some." "You helped over 1,000 children," said Morgan, "and inspired thousands of people to help too." "How so?" asked Isabel. "Margaret, can you show them?" asked Morgan. Margaret led them to an office where the walls were covered with letters, drawings, and photographs. "These are letters from people all over the United States," explained Margaret. "People who read your story and decided to help children in their own cities." "How many people?" asked Hector. "More than 10,000, replied Margaret. "Teachers who set up effective adoption programs, entrepreneurs who created foundations for abandoned children, families who opened their homes to orphans." "Because of our story?" asked Delilah incredulously. "Because of Isabel's story," corrected Morgan. "A girl who proved that one person can change the world." "I didn't change the world," protested Isabel. "I just helped some children." "Isabel," said Morgan gently, "you saved your mother. You saved Valentine and Hector. You saved over 1,000 children on the farms, and you inspired 10,000 people to help other children. You changed the world." "But I didn't do it alone," said Isabel. "My family helped me." "Exactly," agreed Morgan. "You taught us that no one needs to change the world alone. You just have to start by loving one person, and that person will love another, and so on." "And now," asked Valentine, "what's going to happen to this farm?" "It's going to become a training center," explained Morgan, "a place where people from all over the country can come to learn how to transform communities through love." "Who's going to teach?" asked Hector. "You are," said Morgan, "if you accept." "Us?" asked Delilah. "You have the experience," said Morgan. "You know how to turn pain into hope, abandonment into family, despair into love." "But we're not teachers," said Valentine. "No," agreed Morgan. "You're something much better. You're a family that proved that love can conquer anything." "And me?" asked Isabel. "What am I going to do?" "You," said Morgan, smiling, "will finally be able to be a child." "How so?" asked Isabel. "You'll study, play, make friends, live your childhood," explained Morgan, "because you've already done your part. Now it's time for other people to continue your work." "But I like helping children," said Isabel. "And you'll always help," guaranteed Morgan. "But now you can help by being an example, showing other children that it's possible to be happy even after suffering." "Will you accept?" asked Margaret. Isabel looked at Delilah, Valentine, and Hector. "What do you think?" "We think it's time for us to put down roots," said Delilah. "It's time for us to have a real home." "A big home," added Valentine, "to welcome all our families when they come to visit us." "A home full of love," completed Hector. "And full of children," said Isabel, excited, "because there will always be children who need family." "Always," agreed Morgan, "but now you don't have to carry that weight alone." "There are 10,000 people helping." 10,000 families, corrected Isabel, "because that's what we are. A giant family." "The biggest family in the world," said Delilah, laughing. "The most loving family in the world," corrected Valentine. "The happiest family in the world," completed Hector. 2 years later, Isabel was 10 years old and was finally living like a normal child. She studied at the farm school, played with her friends, and only in the afternoons helped to receive the groups who came to learn about community transformation. "Isabel," said Valentine one afternoon, finding her drawing under a tree, "are you happy?" "Very happy," she replied. "Why?" "Sometimes I wonder if we made the right choices," said Valentine. "If you didn't lose your childhood taking care of everyone." "I didn't lose my childhood," said Isabel. "I had the best childhood possible." "How so?" "I spent my childhood learning that love is the most important thing in the world," explained Isabel. "How many children have the chance to learn that?" "You don't have any regrets?" asked Valentine. "Only one," said Isabel. "Which one?" "That I didn't start helping the children sooner," she replied, smiling. "But then I remembered that I was only 4 years old when it all started. I couldn't have started any earlier." "And now? What are your plans for the future?" "To keep helping," said Isabel, "only now in a different way." "How?" "By being happy," explained Isabel. "Because when the children who come here see me happy, they know that it's possible to be happy even after suffering." "And that's helping?" "It's the best help I can give," said Isabel, "showing that it's worth not giving up." That night, during the community dinner that had become a tradition, Isabel made a speech that no one would ever forget. "6 years ago," she said, climbing onto a chair to be taller, "I was alone, hungry, and afraid. Today I have the biggest family in the world." "How many people are in our family?" shouted a child. "I don't know," replied Isabel. "But every time someone chooses to love instead of hate, our family grows." "And will it grow forever?" asked another child. "Forever," promised Isabel, "because love has no end." "And if someone doesn't want to be part of our family?" asked an adult. "Then we respect that," replied Isabel, "but we leave the door open in case they change their mind." "Why?" asked someone. "Because," said Isabel, looking at Delilah, Valentine, and Hector, "true family never gives up on anyone." And there, on that farm that had become a beacon of hope, surrounded by hundreds of people who had learned that love is capable of transforming anything, Isabel knew that her mission was complete. Not because she had helped all the children in the world, but because she had planted seeds of love that would continue to grow long after she grew up. She had proven that a child can change the world, not through magic or superpowers, but through the simplest and most powerful thing that exists: unconditional love. And that was a lesson that would last forever.